Years ago, I started talking to a girl named Christina. We had mutual friends and would occasionally reply to each other's Snapchat stories. After a while, I decided to just go for it and ask her out. It was the middle of July, so there were plenty of things we could do for a first date. Beaches and outdoor activities were the obvious choices. There's a beach near where I live that allows trucks to drive right onto the sand if you have the proper permit. I still take my pickup there all the time. Neither of us had work the next day, so we decided to head to the beach that night, build a small bonfire, and have a few drinks. It was a weeknight, and already after 8, so I knew almost no one else would be there. It sounded like the perfect, quiet first date. Christina lived only about 5 minutes away, so I picked her up and we stopped at a 7-Eleven to grab firewood and some supplies. After that, we headed straight to the beach. The truth is, I had never actually started a fire before. I was nervous about embarrassing myself, but the idea sounded good in theory. I drove us onto the trail that leads to the sand. The trail is fairly long, and at one point it splits. Almost everyone turns right toward the main beach, but I usually go left because it leads to a smaller, quieter area that most people don't know about. We went left. When we reached the beach, we were completely alone. With my headlights on high beams, I could see far down the shoreline, and there wasn't another truck or person in sight. I parked the truck on a small sand hill, and we started unloading our things. I dug a pit with my shovel and placed the wood inside with smaller sticks to get it going. But no matter what I did, the fire wouldn't start. After about 20 minutes of trying, I gave up. It was embarrassing, but Christina laughed about it and we joked around. Instead, we just sat in the dark, drinking the beers we brought. For a while, the only sound was the ocean waves rolling onto the shore. Then Christina quietly said she heard something else. At first, I didn't catch it, but once I focused, I heard it too. Someone was whistling. It definitely wasn't a bird. It sounded like a person. Christina and I looked at each other immediately. Both of us were clearly freaked out. The whistling sounded close. Since we had no other light, I walked back to the truck and switched the headlights on. Right then, Christina screamed. We both saw the back of a man's head as he hurried away through the tall beach grass on the small hill above my truck. He must have been standing there the whole time, watching us. I yelled at him to get lost. I climbed up the hill and tried to follow him, but I lost sight of him almost immediately. The grass was tall and thick everywhere. He could have been hiding anywhere. I used my phone flashlight and stood on my toes trying to see over the grass. Looking back now, I don't even think I wanted to find him. I should have just gotten in the truck and left. Christina called out to me and told me to just come back. Then we heard the whistle again. This time it sounded extremely close, maybe 10 feet away. Christina heard it too and begged me to come back to the truck. So I went down the hill and started packing up our chairs and bags. As I climbed into the truck, I paused. From the same area where the whistling came from, I heard humming. At that point, it was obvious someone was intentionally trying to scare us. We got into the truck. I turned the headlights off and started the engine. I sat there for a moment, almost expecting whoever was hiding in the grass to come closer once they heard the engine. And that's exactly what happened. I flipped the headlights on for just a second. Through the grass, I saw a man's face staring directly into the truck. The moment the light hit him, he quickly ducked back down into the grass. Part of me wanted to get out and confront him, but Christina stopped me. She pointed out that the guy could be armed or mentally unstable. She was right. So we left the beach. The entire drive out felt tense and unsettling. We kept checking behind us to make sure we weren't being followed. To this day, I still don't know what that man wanted, but the entire situation felt incredibly wrong. When I was younger, my family rented a beach house for a summer weekend. The trip ended up being cut short, and this is why. On the first day, we spent time swimming at the beach and then went out to dinner. Near the house, there were large sand dunes with steep hills. That night, my brother Joey and I had the idea to slide down the dunes like sledding. We found some large cardboard boxes in a closet and cut them into pieces to use as makeshift sleds. Our parents said we could go out as long as we stayed close to the house. We found the tallest dune and started sliding down it on the cardboard. It actually worked pretty well. After Joey slid down for maybe the third or fourth time, he shouted up to me, "Tyler, what is that?" I didn't know what he meant, so I slid down again and walked over to where he was pointing. Out in the ocean was a black shape sticking up from the water. The moon, reflecting off the water, gave us just enough light to see that something was there, but not enough to identify it. It looked like something floating. We were a little uneasy and too scared to go right up to it, so we decided to move further down the beach and find another dune. We found a smaller hill that was still close to the house. Joey went down first while I stayed at the top watching. Then I looked out at the ocean again. The black shape was still there. It looked like it had followed us. I yelled for Joey to look again. As soon as he saw it, he ran back up the hill toward me. We stared at it for a while. It bobbed up and down with the water, but something about it seemed wrong. Our house wasn't very far away, and curiosity got the better of us. We thought maybe it was a dead animal floating in the water, so we decided to walk closer. We had only made it halfway to the water when the black shape suddenly started rising. It wasn't floating. A person stood up. The figure rose out of the water to full height with their arms straight at their sides. We realized the head we had been seeing was part of someone standing there the whole time. We ran back to the house and slammed the door, yelling for our parents. Our parents thought we were exaggerating and assumed it was just someone swimming at night. Even when we told them it looked like the person had followed us, they didn't seem convinced. Our dad went out onto the back deck with the lights on and looked across the beach. When he didn't see anyone, he told us we had nothing to worry about. Later that night, Joey and I were in the bedroom we were sharing when we heard our mom scream from the living room. We jumped out of bed and ran toward the noise. Our dad yelled for us to go back to our room, but we didn't listen right away. Our parents were staring out the back door. We walked over and looked. Standing on the back deck was a naked man, smiling and waving at us. Our dad immediately pushed us back toward the bedroom and told us to stay inside. From our room, we could hear everything. Our dad was yelling at the man and threatening to call the police. Then there was a loud bang against the glass door, and our mom screamed. Our dad told her to take us into the room while he called 911. She came in and tried to comfort us while we could hear more banging against the glass. My dad is not a big guy, and he's definitely not a fighter, so he clearly didn't want to go outside unless he absolutely had to. After a few minutes, the banging stopped. Soon, several police cars arrived. There were more officers in the house than I remember counting. Joey and I had to describe what we saw earlier on the beach. To this day, our parents believe the man was probably a drugged-out predator wandering the area. The whole experience was disturbing for our entire family. Even 12 years later, it still gives me chills thinking about it. And yes, we left the house immediately. Our parents got their money back, and we ended up staying at a nearby resort for the rest of the weekend. But none of us slept very well after that. When I was 20, my girlfriend Stevie and I planned to go watch a 4th of July fireworks show at a local beach. The problem was that all the main beach parking lots were completely full. Traffic was chaotic and people were everywhere. Eventually, we drove farther down the road and found a smaller parking lot that was almost empty. Some people were already parked there, sitting in lawn chairs watching the fireworks from the lot. But Stevie and I wanted to watch from the beach itself. To reach the beach, we had to walk through a tunnel under an overpass that led away from the parking lot. Once we got onto the sand, the beach was surprisingly empty. Apparently, we were the only people willing to walk that far. We walked for nearly 20 minutes before the fireworks finally started. We weren't very close to the main show, but it was still a decent view. We spread out our blanket and tried to make the best of it. About 10 minutes into the fireworks, I heard voices behind us. When I turned around, I saw a few people standing in the distance watching the show. It didn't seem strange. After another 10 minutes, the fireworks ended, and the mosquitoes started getting unbearable. We packed our things and began walking quickly back toward the parking lot. There were several tunnels along the way, and they all looked identical. The one we had originally used had 2 garbage cans beside the left wall, so we kept looking for that. As we walked, I noticed a man approaching from the darkness ahead. He greeted us and asked for help. I slowed down, but didn't stop completely. Something about him immediately made me uneasy. He pointed toward the tunnel beside him and said his friend was injured and needed help, but he didn't have a phone. Stevie seemed just as uncomfortable as I was. I kept moving slowly while holding her hand and asked where his friend was. He said the injured person was in the parking lot beyond the tunnel. I looked into the tunnel. It was completely pitch black. There was no way I was going through there. I apologized and said we were in a hurry, then started walking away while pulling Stevie along with me. The man's tone instantly changed. He angrily called me a piece of garbage as we kept walking. I didn't respond. I just quietly told Stevie to keep moving. Every few seconds, I looked back over my shoulder. That's when I saw them. The man was now following us with 2 other people. He had clearly lied about the injured friend. We were about to be jumped. I told Stevie to go ahead toward the tunnel with the 2 garbage cans. If we both started running immediately, it might trigger them to chase us. She began moving faster ahead of me. Meanwhile, the men behind me were getting closer. I wanted to give Stevie as much distance as possible before I ran. When I finally reached the correct tunnel, I turned around again. The 3 men were right behind me now. One of them shouted, "Hey, come here!" Stevie was calling my phone, but I couldn't answer. The moment I stepped into the tunnel, I heard them rushing toward me, so I sprinted. I ran barefoot across the rough concrete as fast as I could, ignoring the pain. Their footsteps echoed behind me. I was running for my life. I burst out of the tunnel into the parking lot, which was thankfully lit by streetlights. Somewhere inside the tunnel, the men stopped chasing me. The lot was almost empty except for 2 other cars and mine. Stevie was already inside with the headlights on. I jumped into the car and looked back toward the tunnel one last time. 2 of the men were standing just inside the entrance watching us. We drove away immediately. When we reached the parkway and saw the long line of cars leaving the main beach area, I had never been more relieved to see traffic in my life. I don't know whether those men planned to rob us or something worse, but it was clear they were waiting for someone to fall for their trap, and I'm very glad we didn't.